We've all heard of horse polo, but what happens when we replace the horses with bicycles? We get bicycle polo.
Love was on its way, just like you felt it yesterday. In fact, you felt it every day since you were 20, honey. You were part of the team, but you were playing solo. Sunday afternoon bicycle polo.
Bicycle polo was invented in 1891 by R.J. Macready. It was invented up in the Scalp in the Dublin, in the Wicklow Mountains. It's where the Dublin sports facility is, where they used to do dry slope skiing. And it was part of a group of people who were part of the Automobile Association, and the idea was that they started with R.J. Macready being a cyclist, and after his cycling career he wanted to sport with bikes, so he invented the sport of bicycle polo. In 1908 the sport was actually in the Olympics in the Shepherd's Bush in London, and Ireland won gold in that, and it took off around Europe. And what it actually ended up being is that it started really taking off in the early 1910, 1912, and then the First World War came and it wiped out the sport in England and in Ireland, because a lot of the players went off to war and never came back. The sport took off again in the 30s, and sadly in the English Bicycle Polo Association book you can actually nearly see to the week when England went to war, all the bicycle polo stopped and a lot of men were lost in the Second World War. And it was in the 1950s that it started to really come back, and in the 1960s there was over 600 teams in England playing. Like, you would have had a Manchester United club, you would have had an Arsenal club, Chelsea club, and the idea was that the bikes would actually roll the football pitches in England. But sadly the car came along and the bicycle was kind of thrown to the back of the shed and the car took over. In 2004 myself and my brother were in a pub, and what it was is that we had a row over who was the better bicycle polo player. And what it ended up being is the following Sunday we came up here into the Phoenix Park and we started knocking around on the bikes and said, right then, the best way to do this is to get the sport going again. So with the help of the internet we realised that there was European teams in Scotland and in England, in Kent. So the European Bicycle Polo was invented in 2004, the set of rules, and it was to encourage more teams in Europe. And what that is that the clubs in France and the clubs in England play the Irish clubs, and in the last period, 5 years, France has been very dominant. They use almost like a paddle mallet, into where we use the cylindrical mallet, and with that we would say that the French have been the better teams. But there's been a new rule drawn up this year that they can't juggle a ball on a mallet, and I believe either Scotland or Ireland now will probably win the European Championships this year. The problem with bicycle polo, even though it was invented in Ireland, it's never really taken off. We have got 4 teams in Ireland, but it's very hard to get everyone up due to holidays and bank holidays. But it's growing in popularity. The hard court, they play a game in the Sundrive Road in the tennis courts there, and what it is that it's growing at a slow rate. But in all over the world there's over 25,000 people playing this sport, and we believe that it's grown in popularity, especially in the hard court area. This is a polo bike, a grass polo bike, and what it is that it's an Allen of Croydon bicycle polo frame. Allen of Croydon were a bike manufacturer, and they made bike frames throughout England for road use and bicycle polo, and he played bicycle polo in the 1930s, and this is the frame he concepted. This bike here, had the down seat tube has been bent right around to the bottom bracket, and the idea is that the whole wheel is shoved underneath the saddle, so the weight with the lie back saddle pillar here is the weight is forced onto the back wheel, and the handlebars become light and the bike is compressed in, and it's so that it's manoeuvrability in between bikes. The bike itself is a fixed wheel, so that is when the bike is actually starting to move, once we move the bike the pedals move, and fixed wheel means is that the whole bike is locked into the back wheel. And this here is what we would say a small 17 ratio to 22 ratio front sprocket, and that gives it a really quick acceleration, and that's what you need in grass polo. All you have to do is just come up to the park, send us an email on bicyclepoloireland@gmail.com, and we will supply the bike to you, and we will supply the mallets, and we give you all the equipment. All you have to do is come up in some sportswear, and we'll get you involved in the game. There's training on a Tuesday night here in the summer at 7 o'clock at the Polo grounds. It's the Polo Road, it's right beside the Dublin Zoo, and come along and have a game.
Bicycle polo, now that's something that's definitely under the radar. For more information on bicycle polo, visit bicyclepoloireland.com.